Most retirees want to stay in their own home as they age. We'll hear more about this later in the afternoon with our item on our recent health and community survey that you had in Postscript recently. It's a very good thing that most people want to stay in their home as they age because there are not enough spaces available in supportive living in our province to meet the demand. But as we get older, it's not maybe going to be just enough to grit our teeth and say, oh, yeah, we can be independent. We don't need any support. Not so. If you're going to age in place, you're going to need support. So, what programs are available in your community? This morning, we're going to focus on one program funded through the United Way that is continuing to work to meet the needs of seniors around all of the province of British Columbia, seniors who want to continue living in their own homes. We're delighted to have with us today Bev Pitman, who is a senior regional community developer, government and relations and government programs at United Way, British Columbia. Welcome, Bev. So glad to have you here in the studio, and we look very much forward to your presentation.
It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to be part of your conference and, in fact, follow on Jocelyn Wong, who I know from RCRG in Richmond. It's great also to have the opportunity to talk to speak with teachers about what for me has been a fascinating learning experience with Better at Home for over 15 years now. My background is in urban and regional planning, and this Better at Home program has truly been an experiment in community development, and I take it seriously. Better at Home has become much more than a government program, and Dave is right to say it's aimed at supporting older adults age in place. It was a new model when it was first introduced in 2012 on a province-wide basis, and it's been evolving since. In fact, even as I speak, as we are here today, other members of the Healthy Aging team are in Prince George today, holding the fourth in 9 consultations with seniors and other members of the community-based senior service sector about a new or better at home. If there's a single takeaway from my presentation today, I hope it's that Better at Home and the new Better at Home, once it's hatched, is a program that is designed, implemented, and I think it's not too much of a stretch to say cared for by communities across BC. It's homemade. It's not perfect. We're working on it, as you heard, and that includes, importantly, speaking with organizations like your own, BC Retired Teachers. Today, on this significantly National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, we want to humbly and respectfully acknowledge all Indigenous nations and peoples throughout this province and raise our hands to their resistance and resilience in the face of grave injustices and the continuing legacy of the residential schools and colonialism more generally. Today, we are on the ancestral and stolen homelands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. We feel indebted to them for caring for this land. This is why we have Better at Home. This is a graph, clearly, of the growth in BC's population 65 and over between 1921, curving up to a future forecast or projection of 2041. What you can see, and I hope read in the box off to the right-hand side, is that the population 65 plus has doubled since 2001. It doubled up 2001 to 221, which was the last census, as you know, and taking 2001 as the baseline again, it will have tripled by the year 2041. So there's lots to celebrate in this. More people are living longer. The baby boomer generation, of course, is moving through the aging process. So there's longevity for many of us, what people call the longevity dividend. And on October 1st, a few days from now, the United Nations and many of us are celebrating October 1st and the International Day of the Older Adult. At the same time, many of us who are older know this too. There are aches and pains and chronic conditions, of course, that accompany the aging process. And another factor complicating this graph in front of you is the growing population diversity in BC. Services, the implications for services and programs is that they need to be offered in more and more languages. This is an interesting fact. We believe Canada is ahead in terms of the old communities in Canada. 7 out of 10 of Canada's oldest communities are in British Columbia. And you probably know, as a BC resident, where most of those are. It's on the Vancouver Island. It's in the Okanagan. Here and there, locations in the Lower Mainland. But 7 out of 10, it's significant. So at United Way, we're in a privileged location to experiment, innovate, and get this Aging in Place program right here. This is something we look to. We consider it our mandate at United Way when it comes to developing the whole community-based senior service sector. And this is to recognize the social determinants of health. If you look to the bottom, you will see that 20% of our health and well-being can be accounted for or attributed to our healthcare system. Only 20%. And that means all the rest are our own responsibilities. They fall within the factors of the physical environment, and they fall under the heading of socioeconomic factors, like how much our household has in the way of income, what our education is, our job status, a history of residential schools, for example, and the trauma that puts on our bodies. So our bodies carry our life experience as determined by the position we've occupied earlier in life and do at the present time. So at United Way, we serve now as the backbone organization for the Ministry of Health when it comes to supporting older adults across BC age in place. We have, and I will be focusing on the Better at Home program. We have other grants. I'll be talking about them as the Healthy Aging grants just quickly to provide context close to the end. We carry out sector strengthening activities because, after all, we're trying to build a sector, not unlike the forestry sector or the mining sector, but one now that is geared to supporting older adults as they age. Community engagement is something that we take seriously. We adopt a community development approach, and that goes hand in hand with community engagement, including the consultations I mentioned earlier. Research and knowledge mobilization is yet another pillar. And in this respect, we're known across Canada now for what's called CORE, the Collaborative Online Resources and Education e-platform that serves the CBSS sector, that's the community-based senior service sector again, in our work to develop the sector. So Better at Home itself, you can see the focus is on independence. And here, a brief description. You can see that it is about non-medical home supports, those simple daily tasks that enable you to stay in your own home, whatever it looks like, apartment, building, a rancher in the suburbs. And it's funded by the government of BC. Our partners specifically are the Ministry of Health, and it is managed by a growing team at United Way BC. There are currently actually 93 programs. We're currently expanding. They are across BC, no matter small, medium, and large urban or rural, even remote areas. 5 programs serve First Nation elders right on reserve. A brief history. In 2006, United Way paved the way for this work when it created a seniors portfolio in response to the community demand for that. The local community sector said the population is aging. United Way, your grant portfolios and community development work need to match. The BC government in that same year released an important document for us, Aging Well in British Columbia, and it followed Dr. Patricia Baird's consultations across BC with seniors and families, asking them what kinds of supports and services do they want to see in the future. Number 1 on the list was non-medical home supports. After 3 years of a pilot, it was called Community Action for Seniors Independence. The shorthand was CASI. We received funds to expand at what was then called Better at Home across BC, and that rollout started in 2012. It was part of the larger plan, Improving Care for BC Seniors, an action plan. So we partnered to develop the pilot, to perfect it, or at least to get it in a sufficient shape to roll it out. And then more funding for program expansion came after a key evaluation I'm going to show you briefly. And these expansions continue today. These are the services that Better at Home provides, and they do vary from community to community. However, there is a basket of services, it's shown on the right-hand side, from which the advisory committees or reference group in each community, which steer the local programming, choose from. They choose from this basket of services on the basis of their own assessment of local seniors' needs. So the services are delivered by a mix of volunteers, contractors, and mostly paid staff. Volunteers comprise about 44%, and they are doing volunteer work, as Jocelyn indicated, in driving seniors, largely to medical appointments, other kinds of destinations as well, though, and the largest amount of volunteer activities falls under the friendly visiting. So these are the results as it relates to the number of services, the proportion of services from our last outcome reports. So they speak to the fiscal year 22-23. At the top of the list, you're going to see light housekeeping. A third of all the services are light housekeeping. 21% or 1 in 5 is the friendly visiting, and 10% or 1 in 10 is prepared meal delivery, and something else, light yard work. Just a note quickly to remind us of the population that we have here. Friendly visiting is the number 1 service provided by the for-profit home support agencies or companies in BC. So sad to say, but important to recognize that people are paying to get a cup of coffee with someone else. And so it underlines the importance of the volunteer role here. Here, the same reporting period, and there's the figure of 44% for the volunteers. We have a description of the current participants in the Better at Home program. The bulk, or 1/3, are 75 to 84 years of age, so we're hitting the mark. A quarter more are 85 years of age and over. A quarter are slightly younger at 65 to 74. And here it's important to remember that age and stage in life is different for everyone. It's not a chronological peg. In the downtown east side, for example, we recognize, as do others in the community-based senior service sector, that older adults who have lived a hard life can be old physically and mentally in their 40s and 50s. So 75 to 85 is a good old age, and many do not reach it. 72% of the Better at Home participants are women. 66% of all participants live alone. Now we've got participants by health authority, and this slide here is to demonstrate that we are aiming, and it seems getting pretty close to representing with our participants and our programs, seniors across BC. So BC has 5 health authorities. They're represented in the different colors of the pie there. And I've just pulled out Vancouver Coastal Health. You can see that the participants there amount to almost a quarter of the Better at Home total population. And there it is on the right-hand side, 22% of the BC population, according to the 2021 census. This is a slide which shouldn't be here. I'll speak to it quickly. It is all healthy aging funding. And if you recall the 5 pillars, and you saw beside it other healthy aging grants. So this is everything. This slide for VCH is mirrored for the other health authorities. And you can see the uptick. It's significant. There's almost a doubling there. It's more than a doubling, and that's the case for all the other health authorities, and they all follow the same pattern. It is, they sit differently on the graph depending on the population served in the health authority. This also is for VCH only. I'll skip it, and I want to move now to the 2017 evaluation of Better at Home. It was the big it was the first big one we did after the real start and rollout in 2012, and we took a lot of learnings. And just to shoot ahead quickly, we have just completed another evaluation, and those consultations I've been talking about are occurring now as a result. We are talking to the folks that run the programs in the context of the CBSS community and in the context of the larger seniors and community populations across BC. So in 2017, we heard from seniors and elders, we heard from the volunteers, we interviewed and surveyed them, and likewise the caregivers. If you think about the benefits to caregivers, and I'll start there, 86% of caregivers are satisfied overall with Better at Home, or they were in 2017. 84% of caregivers feel the services are affordable. There is a charge, there's a sliding scale based on ability to pay. And a highlight, caregivers feel confident, at ease. They say there's less worry and less stress when their care recipients are receiving the Better at Home. From seniors and elders themselves, we heard 89% saying that they feel they can stay at home longer. After all, that's the whole purpose, and that's almost 9 out of 10. 81% feel safer in their community, supported, I imagine. 2/3 feel more socially connected, and this is key, and it's something that we've been building on. Volunteers, and almost, well, you can see 97% expressed a great deal of satisfaction in their friendly visiting, the driving, and other work they do in the context of Better at Home. 95% of volunteers report a feeling of accomplishment. This is important for the mostly older volunteers themselves, and 55%, there they are age 65 plus. Here's the current or the most recent evaluation. It also is province-wide. There were a total of 3 key findings. The third's on the next page. The first is that Better at Home is positively impacting its key stakeholders. And that includes seniors, the caregivers, and surrounding families, as well as the communities they live in, the volunteers too. Most participants indicated high levels of satisfaction with the supports that Better at Home offers. So I'm not going to go through them all, but I will give you a sense, a bit of a deeper dive. The participants reported actually retaining a sense of independence. This is what they hoped for, and they seem to be getting it. They are able to remain at home. They do feel safe and supported, and they feel connected and valued through the Better at Home staff and contractors and other people like seniors themselves that they meet. Caregivers report an increased peace of mind. They report that the burden has been lessened. They notice the increase in support, and that this program has actually facilitated communication with loved ones. Volunteers talk about the sense of civic vitality they secure in this role, being valued. Their quality of life improves according to their self-reporting, and their own social inclusion and sense of connection picks up. At the community level, and remember this is a community development approach, it's not just a program, the communities with Better at Home are becoming better communities to age in place for everyone, beyond those who are actively participating, that it is building the CBSS sector and other networks. So too much to read, I imagine, but I'll skip across the top. This is the third key finding. The Better at Home programs are not just out there on their own. They are increasingly very much part of a growing sector. I like to think of it as a growing care economy in BC. And 8% of all programs, for example, have partners in the Regional Health Authority. They are working increasingly closer, and we're encouraging even more collaboration. 80% have relationships with food-related not-for-profits, and that includes food banks, I'm afraid. 80% include partnerships with senior advocacy organizations, and BCRTA could be in there, certainly COSCO, the Council of Senior Citizens of BC, Organization of BC, and the Old Age Pensioners. There are others, CARP, for example, and it goes on. I'm going to leave it there because there are more recommendations than action areas. And again, these are the kinds of topics that we're bringing to our consultations right now in BC, in the 9 consultations, asking for feedback on how we have tentatively in our proposal, which I'm going to go on and outline, how we can develop a better at Home based on these evaluations. So we're going to try to, with our partners in community, those 93 not-for-profit agencies that are hosting the program, increase the frequency and the duration of all the non-medical home support services. We're going to retain the flexibility that we're commended for with the service planning and the consistency in service providers. As it relates to the service delivery model, we're going to put the social connectedness or the friendly visiting piece, if you like, at the core of all service delivery. So you don't just get it from somebody from a company down the road, but you get it from someone who you increasingly over time build a relationship with. There's a real active effort to match people appropriately with the service providing staff. We're going to revisit the sliding scale. I mentioned it earlier. And revisit the service population. I'm going to speak directly to that. and so on down the list. We're going to increase, and nudge is the way we'll be approaching it, increase collaboration between the Better at Home host agencies and other senior serving organizations in their communities, along with the health authorities and the municipal governments, which, after all, in many, many cases, have age-friendly community plans in place, including for community services like this. More capacity building, more training. So now I'm headed towards an outline. It will be of the proposal for a new or better at Home. Lots of words here. I can boil it down to the fact that we want to support aging in place, successful aging in place for community dwelling seniors across BC. We do that in our vision increasingly through community collaboratives. As a result, the vision has seniors accessing an expanded basket of services to remain aging in place at home through Better at Home, and they stay better connected, more active, and getting the information and services in community that they really want and need. In these consultations, and the message to you now, key messages are that we are using the social determinants of health as our rationale or framework. This gives United Way as an organization that is not in the health sector the rationale to go forward and try to support seniors through our partnerships to age in place. Increasing the capacity of the CBSS sector concurrent with the growth in the older adult population is important, and strengthening the collaboration, as I've mentioned. This is a shift. All seniors across BC are currently invited to participate in Better at Home, and as you heard, depending on their household income, they will pay a different amount. There is a good amount of subsidized service delivery, and as it is based on the low income profile of those seniors. But we're defining the new target population as those with low or modest income. That is overwhelmingly the case now. Those who are socially isolated or report themselves as lonely. Those who have, according to their doctors or family members, low to moderate frailty. And in addition, because there's two or more of the following, a member of an underserved population, and you can see the list there. They may be a member of an immigrant and ethnocultural minority. They might be Indigenous, elders, caregivers, members of the LGBTQ+, or living with a disability. The new Better at Home is going to have an expanded basket of services from what you saw earlier. It's going to increase opportunities for social connection, focus on the frailty prevention, embed nutrition as a social component of programming, and offer information and referral at the core. Those are the additional services, respectively, under that heading. And then other services still can be applied for separately. And that's an expanded kind of light housekeeping, details of which are getting worked out. The same follows for the rest. Food for social meals, not just prepared meal delivery to a home. Volunteer infrastructure, support and training, and transportation innovation. Top of the list is the light housekeeping. This is the most desired service. You can see the friendly visiting and social supports. Also a desire from the Ministry of Health to tailor Better at Home in such a way as that we can learn whether seniors need other forms of intervention, health forms of intervention in particular. Food supports. This is, especially now at this time of inflation, something that we hear the need for from the Ministry of Health, but definitely from the program hosts and from seniors themselves. We're intending to use food supports in social ways, not entirely, but to also increase social connections and prevent loneliness. You will have heard about social isolation as the new smoking. Transportation, we're going to be focusing, just as with the last one, on those communities with food deserts or transportation deserts in this case. It is now increasingly recognized as a real gap. Transportation is a key determinant of health if you think of its role in getting groceries, being a social and active member of the community, just getting out and about. The rides for medical trips have superseded the intention of non-medical services. We want to get more non-medical trips to seniors through Better at Home in the future. The volunteer strategy, this is a key element of Better at Home as it's been envisioned to date. We need to work on it to stabilize volunteers' numbers and participation and skills. We are, as you will have heard already, going to be emphasizing more collaboration. We know that it's not without its costs in time, but we think the benefits outweigh. And we're looking for committees and tables to grow in their participation with Better at Home and other parts of the sector. There are already extremely capable seniors-led tables across BC. I could, if there's time permitting at the end, perhaps talk more about just all that they're able to accomplish. Strong partnerships and collaborations throughout the sector, strong collaborations, working relationships with health and municipalities. There will be funded new roles many of them across BC, and tentatively this role is being called the Community Connector. It's supporting seniors by connecting them with needed resources in the community and referrals when necessary to the healthcare system. It will also, this person, support the community collaborative. This now speaks beyond Better at Home to all the healthy aging programs funded across BC. I think there's a total of 272 of them. And you know already that there are 93 Better at Home. I'll just run through the others. There are family and friend caregiver programs. We hope to see more of them in the future. TAPS is shorthand for a therapeutic activation program. This amounts to an adult day center. Social prescribing is new. We are part of a movement across Canada. United Way in BC is furthest ahead in actually introducing it to communities. Social prescribing, as you can probably imagine, has a GP, your family doctor, prescribing activities that are not pharmaceutical, drugs, that they might be physical exercise programs. It might be participation in a social group of one form or another. It might be one-on-one counseling offered at the community level. The list goes on and on. Walking groups. Active Aging Plus is a program we've been offering for years. Navigation and peer support, this is where the I&R, or information and referral programs we want to integrate in Better at Home, currently sits. Men's sheds, there's 22 of them across BC. They're growing across Canada. We've had a role in that. And most recently, we have issued again, and these grants are largely from the Ministry of Health, the emergency preparedness and response. You can see almost 70 across BC, so that seniors are prepared for the extreme weather events that unfortunately are coming our way. This now, quickly, to give you a sense again of the coverage, but now the background is the local health area, or LHAA. This is an administrative unit that the Ministry of Health uses. It's one that we will be taking on and trying to by work of people like myself, regional community developers, try to support the local collaboratives in their coming together and the work ahead. This is zooming in to VCH, and you can see Vancouver there, the large cluster of healthy aging, including better at home programs. And even closer in, there are 8 better at home programs in Vancouver. You can see the string along the shoreline in North Vancouver, and they go up the coast, but they also go across BC. So here we are today even. Our next steps are to complete the series of consultations going on, to formulate what we heard from consultations and report back on October 30th to the sector. We frequently have Zoom meetings. We will then prepare the further details on an application process that we will share through our communication channels, well established across the CBS sector in early December. And then the application that will give rise to this new or improved, better at home comes in late winter. Thank you. I'm going to turn it back to you now, Dave.
Oh, Bev, thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation. Some takeaways for me. First of all, that mention of a care economy. Its breadth and depth of support for people aging in place. They need to know that they can stay. They know that they feel safe, and they know that they're socially connected. Having those supports, the United Way has taken on a real leadership role here, and it looks going forward like the collaboration and consultation is going to really assist. That CBSS, which stands for Community-Based Senior Services, that acronym came up a number of times, and I just wanted to remind people, community-based senior services, do you know what you have in your community? It's wonderful that we have these necessary support services in place and expanding, growing, and yes, meeting the needs, because we don't have the institutional facilities, nor do we necessarily need them. A priority for the BC Retired Teachers Association is serving our members and looking at aging in place. As I said earlier, so what's the plan, Jen? Hopefully many of us can take stock of this, what you've given. Now there are a number of questions I'd like to offer to you, Jen, if you could, Bev, pardon me, if you could answer them briefly. First of all, do you have some advice for family members of elderly people who could really use the service, but their elderly relatives, they say, oh, I just don't want to be a bother? How can we get some positive traction for them to look into getting the services they need?
Well, this it's an unfortunate characteristic of our society, particularly amongst older women like myself. I include myself, this desire not to be a burden. We have to remember these are the people that gave birth to the rest of the population, and they deserve their time in the sun. I would suggest they go to the Better at Home website. I suggest, though, and find the local Better at Home program. I suggest, though, that they have a conversation along the lines of Better at Home is a social opportunity. You can make friends through a friendly visitor. Mm-hmm. You can get out in the community and see those old friends that you haven't seen for a while. Become more active than you possibly have since you hung up the keys or retired or moved into a new location and haven't yet built up friends. I would have a conversation along those lines.
Well, certainly, as you notice, that the number one for-profit operations offered is friendly visiting. So if you can get a service that isn't necessarily for profit and get out and visit, very helpful. Now, if I were to volunteer for a program like Better at Home in the community, is there some training involved so that I'll know that I'm doing it right?
Yes, yes. Every Better at Home program has a volunteer coordinator or someone who fulfills that role. You can imagine in small towns that the roles are bundled in small numbers of people. But yes, you will definitely be given instruction on boundaries, for example, that you will want to maintain so that you can come back the next day or next week and carry on. Yes, definitely.
Well, another participant in the conference has asked, is there support for seniors with mental health issues or autism or on the spectrum or difficulties of that sort?
Yes, there is, to an extent. What we have in the Better at Home coordinators are people skilled at determining through an intake assessment and then through the ongoing connections with any senior who is participating in the program in terms of how they're doing and whether or not they need a referral if they don't already have it with the local health authority and the health focused staff.
Well, thanks. Certainly, we wonder when people, they have, maybe their cognitive decline is not substantial, but it's getting along the way and they need more services. And that's a concern. We've got to have the right approach. So that's great to hear.
Yep, they have the training. And,
have the training. How do I, if I was wanting to get some contact information for United Way, I noticed your picture, your diagram of BC. If I wanted to get information for United Way in Smithers and Houston, BC, how would I get that contact information?
You could go to the Better at Home website and you would be able to access a map that shows all the locations of Better at
So
Home.
when you press on those buttons, do they give you information?
Exactly.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, you'll get the name of the local nonprofit who serves as host. You'll get the contact information, a telephone number.
Well, we have one more question, okay?
Okay.
It's exciting to see this kind of coordinated thinking. I personally am involved in working with some friends just in this age and place at home, the difficulties I'm encountering. I'm sure many of my colleagues are in the same position. Is this program sustainable? Is the funding secure?
We have the support of the Ministry of Health and the BC government. We have major support. I think it may be approaching 95% of the funding that we work with for all the healthy aging grants comes from the Ministry of Health. We're also going to be drawing on the support of the Ministry of Transportation, the Ministry of Social Development, others still, increasingly as they recognize that seniors are not just about health, whether good or bad, but in fact, you know, are citizens who need good roads and the ability to access transportation, public transportation services as they age in their communities.
Well, I can see your passion, and I'm not so sure that you're quite ready for all these services. I think you're a little young.
Well, my joke, Dave, is that I'm aging in place in this job at United Way.
Okay.
And I'm happy.
Well, thank you ever so much for your presentation. Most appreciated.
Thank you, Dave.